Thank you for meeting us amidst the chaos, and may we find silliness in the reality we find ourselves. This is the Zoliart Montana podcast. My name is Linda, here with Zoli Althea Brown. And Zoli, one thing you like to say is that reality is not what it used to be.
It's apparently not. I don't know where I first started saying that. I think it probably came from a being around me to add some lightness to a heavy situation. I think I started saying that about 40 years ago, 45 years ago, to say that things will change and they will evolve. And that's how it's supposed to be. We get attached to the moment, so we're supposed to stay in the moment. Well, if you stay in it too long, it's the past. So what are you supposed to do? I think that's one of the conundrums of life. And because it's not what it used to be, what is it becoming? Well, that's the question, isn't it? It's the enormous change of the time. It's exactly what's supposed to be happening. So say the masters. Of course, we have a lot of different opinions on that. But it's the emotions, the enemies of humanity, I say, is gravity and emotions. It holds us down, it holds us past, but it's Saturnian. It's the teachers. It causes us to move into the future and hopefully not take too much of the past with us. Do we learn from that? I don't know. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. When I don't, I hear about it.
That feels accurate and as though it's an antidote to our resistance to change a bit.
Well, we want to be comfortable. It's part of human nature. And once we get that life continues, you die the physical body over and over, but it doesn't stop. It's a magnificent future ahead, not just in this reality. Thank God I'll shed this body at some point, go on, be in the astral realm and some of the other realms, maybe go to a different planet. We've all done some of that. How do we know what we're going to do? I don't think we know. I think putting our plans out there is okay, but is that the right thing for us to do? We have to wait. And that's uncomfortable. We want to be comfortable. That's part of human nature. And I think when we are comfortable, we tend to do better work.
It can be a challenge to get out of that comfort zone and try new things.
Well, it's that dichotomy that everything has a negative and a positive pole to it. We are in this planetary aspect of negative, positive, male, female, up, down, sideways, black, white, green, whatever. We are dealing with opposites. And how do we resolve those opposites? To say that we're going to create balance and we're going to be balanced, that's ridiculous. We can't do that because it's going to change. We can aspire to it. You know, I aspire to be balanced. Sometimes I think I am, but here comes that scale again. Think of the scale, think of the Libran aspect of always looking for balance. So when we aspire to that, I think we do better than when we just let it happen. Just let her rip. And sometimes that works. I can't say it does. And there's that dichotomy again. When do you do that? When do you not? I don't know. It's personal opinion. It depends on who's around you, what you're trying to accomplish, and how much comfort level do you want? How much are we supposed to be uncomfortable within ourselves to get stuff done? Well, it's supposed to be hard. We have to try. And I know I say over and over that if we're not doing well and if we can't get going, just keep trying. This is the way the only thing anything gets done. The only thing we have to do is keep trying. And at some point when we can't try, so don't. You know, this thing about the hard and fast rules that we abuse ourselves with these have tos and that we have to move in the future doing this, or this. From 50, 60 years ago, when I started doing this work, what we had to do was a lot different. I remember when I was living in Nashville in the late 70s, everybody was starting a center. You're supposed to start a center. You're supposed to have communes. Well, that didn't go well either. None of it goes well, but we try, and by trying, we transmute matter. We spiritualize it. We add the God piece because that's who we really are, and we add that to the material world. So by the trying, by the effort, you add your God piece to that. So what if we didn't get all the perfect centers made, all the communes, all the whatever? That changed. The energy field changed. Then what we're supposed to do? Right now, the saying is we're supposed to be conscious. We're supposed to this and that. I think there's value in some of these things that we're so called supposed to do. It's a group movement, but we attach to it. I drive myself crazy with it sometimes, as you well know.
Very true. And there's something powerful in what you said in the example you gave about how everyone started a center. And even if that center is not going now, that's not the point. The point was in the doing. And so when you see your failures, it's not a failure. You are spiritualizing matter. That's what you
Yeah,
right?
and it's like going, why would we go back to 5th, 6th grade? And we go, oh my God, I was such an idiot. And that, well, you're supposed to be. First of all, you didn't have a frontal brain. You were 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. So we go into these energy fields and we solidify thought. We solidify because everything you see around you there was a thought before it was a thing. We solidify these things and then we move through it and create new things. So whatever we were supposed to be doing back there was good that came out of that. I started and ran the Center of Melchizedek in Nashville. Did I make a mess of it? Partially. I was 24 years old. I barely had a brain at all. I was trying to figure out who I was, what I was. I didn't know. I didn't know, but we were supposedly setting the way, one of the centers to prepare for the coming of the world teacher, Maitreya, and the Masters of Wisdom. Was I the only one? Clearly not. So I hope that I add a little bit to it. We taught classes, we did a lot of different things. I'll talk about that more later on. But I think about those times. How could I have done it any different or better? I couldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't go now back and do that. Because first of all, I wouldn't because of who and what I am now. So what we do and these progressions of what we're doing, that leads us into the futures. But we beat ourselves up. We just don't think that we can get it right. Is that good or bad? I don't know.
It's intriguing. It almost sounds as though our physical reality fights with our spiritual understanding of what we're doing.
Of course, it has to. That's the lesson. Physical world is very Saturnian. It's physical. It doesn't get lower than this. This is low. And the reason it is we're here to manifest it and to make it spiritual in this. What does that mean? To make it spiritual, to lighten it up. Mars is 3 million years ahead of us. You can't even see them because they are in the etheric form, but they're there. They're people. So we come in here, the same kind of God beings as they are, but we are here to do this job to evolve Earth, the third rock from the sun. And supposedly we are right on schedule. Now, I wouldn't think so because I think there's so much we could be doing better. So why am I not? Look in the mirror. Why am I not? Just keep me on track. I like to say the glory be to the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, who was in the beginning, who is now and ever shall be, world without end. How inspiring is that? World without end. It never ends. It doesn't. You don't ever end. That being on the bottom is what you're headed to. You are headed to being a master on all planes. Not now, but you're getting there. And the way that you get there is to allow yourself to be inspired by beings that are higher than you, to access the divine in a way that you can understand what makes sense to you. What makes sense? The great religions of the world, the lesser religions of the world, the spiritual paths, the lighting of fires, the drumming, it all counts. And there's love in all of it. What does that love mean? It means that we join together to access the peace of God that we understand and that we don't. And the peace that we don't is what we're looking for. Do we ever get it? I don't think so. Not unless we're a master. We finished all 3 going into the 4th initiation, the 5th. We just don't. Jimmy Carter that just died, he was a 4th degree initiate.
It seems easy to get caught up. One thing that you focus on that is so important is the idea that there is no definite black and white or good or bad. You're not a bad person. You're not a good person. You're just trying. You're just being here to try.
You are. However, when you break it down into moments, you can be a good or a bad person in accordance with karma, divine will, in accordance with the laws of the land, the value systems. But in the greater ideal, we're just all on this moving river. And that's almost too idealistic to talk about. So then everything's okay? No, it's not. But in the great scheme of things, why do we romanticize these criminals back in the Wild West? Why do we do that? Because we're so far from it. They got away with things. Why do we do that? So we move out of things and we forget. And that's fine. So we forget. Can't do anything about it. It's just how life on earth is. It's segmented. So I think, yes, in the grand scheme of things, we absolutely are one being. We are one soul. We are one planet. We know that. But when you get down into the little minutia of it, of the time and the space, who and what we are and who and what we're doing does make a difference, because everything does matter. And then nothing does. I'm going to get really ethereal about it, but it matters very much. If you're supposed to be at your job at 8 a.m, say, I don't want to go. Well, there's consequences. So we deal with the consequences of things, and that's part of Earth life.
It's very curious how that dance between the what we know of ourselves as individuals and how we're also a collective. It's fascinating to see the way we play with that as we're here.
Very good point, because it does change. Back in Atlantean times, 3 million years, people were like the Borg. There wasn't a consciousness there. We were there to develop our emotions. And before that, the Lemurian time, there was no consciousness. We were like one entity. And so as we divide consciousness into these individual units, we have more potential to grow and to change. The whole Piscean age, the 2,500 or so years, went out in 1675. New Age started coming in 1675. We're definitely in it. But that time was a time of going within. All the monasteries, all the going within is the sign of sacrifice and suffering. The Master Jesus, what he suffered, show this is what you have to do to go through the 4th degree initiation. This is what you have to do. You have to give up the world. Now we're in the age of Aquarius. Supposedly we've gotten that point. We've gotten it that, yeah, we're individuals. In fact, are we two individuals? Sometimes we are. And so let's take that individuality and work in collaboration, like we like to do at Zoliart. You take your skills and your abilities and you go with it within the desire of the group. And it can be in art, it can be messed up, it can be perfect. It's all of those things at times. But I think we're in the time the Aquarian age says you can only do things in a group. So look how that's changed from the time when I was in Nashville running the Center of Melchizedek. We were just coming out of the Piscean age, or we were still in it with little pieces of the Aquarian age lighting up here and lighting up there, saying, we need to work in a center, we need to work in a group, but wait, we're more monastic, we want to be alone. So there's times of overflow, and there's times of crossing over with belief systems. And we're supposed to have this confusion of the physical world is dense. If you say it's not there, just run your car into a tree. You'll see it's there. I'm not saying to do that, but it's supposed to be physical. We're supposed to have nerve endings. We're supposed to feel things. We're supposed to hear, to see, to touch. It's the physical senses that we use. And it's a constant fight. It's a balance. But that fight is the effort. It's what spiritualizes matter. It's what creates life. It's what joins us together to do things and to make things happen in service. And in meditation and prayer, we're more alone. Then take that built up power and push it out into the world in a way that you can make a difference. Do you have to work in a food line? Do you need to work at the food bank? I'm not saying that. There are ways of service that are mental. And every time you go into the world, you can find some way to do it. God knows people have very, very difficult lives. And maybe service is taking care of somebody for an hour. I have no plan for that. I have no idea how that works. But I think if we have the idea and the ideal of giving, of service, it opens the heart. It opens the heart. When I was living, this is a funny story. When I was living in Olympia, this is in 1987 to 2012, something like that. I was going through the period where Spirit was training me to go out and work. I was working through Bread and Roses, doing ministerial things. And I was told to give money to every street person I saw. Well, one day I knew if I went down the bridge, that there's a street guy was always there. I went the other way. I got a ticket. I'll never forget that because at that time in my life, I was learning to work with the homeless population. I was learning the values of that and what that system was. I had a homeless ministry. That's not how I am now. I passed through that specific way. Was it good or bad? It simply was. But I didn't do what I knew I was supposed to do, and I got like a $50 ticket. Never forgot it.
So it reminds me of Jonah and the whale.
Oh yeah, the whale. I got swallowed up by my ego, But I think Spirit puts things in our way to say, it's important that you learn this because you can use this later and you can help other people with it. I truly, even though I have judgment on many things, because I'm very much like that, I want rules, I want order. I don't have it on how people should pray or meditate or serve. It's just not there. Been there, I understand it, and it's such a personal thing. But we're definitely in the times where we're seeing the difference in the physical world, as you said, and the world of spirit. And more of the world of spirit is coming in. The so-called veils are lifting, energies. There's so many weird ways of saying that, but I think the truth is we can see more than we couldn't see before.
That definitely feels true. And it feels as though we're allowing it or we're embracing our own individual aspect of it rather than requiring a religious dogma to follow. Not for more so for everyone to find what works for them rather than it being forced upon them.
That's a very good point because what we see now happening is many people are choosing to go away from organized religion, but it has to do also, I think, with the pyramidal structure of how businesses were run, of how religions were run, where somebody at the top tells you what to do. And that was necessary at that time. Now we need to be a little more awake. I'm Catholic. I enjoy going to Mass at times, but I don't choose to go every day. Some people do. My godmother does. She's amazing. That's a wonderful path. The spiritual path, the religious path, the path of the guru. There are many ways to reach God. But what we don't seem to want now is something telling us what we're supposed to do and we don't feel it. If you feel it, that's different. And if you see that that's a path forward. Children, if you give children an opportunity and when they start asking questions, what is God? Why did it die? When they start asking, then answer, but to not push them into a pattern. And I'd like to see a lot of that kind of melt away also in the school system. Tom and I were just talking about this yesterday. Why are the school systems so weird? Well, I have no idea. I've got opinions. I'm not even going to go there. You've homeschooled your 3 sons. It's an enormous sacrifice. Not everybody has those skills, but you did. You created 3 beautiful human beings with a lot of effort and a lot of time. So we're in the time that I think by this summer, we have a lot of Pluto things happening, a lot of change, a lot of transition. And I had this dream 2 nights ago. And I was talking to my friend John Hogue, and he was saying that, yes, he believes that in August, the changes you're going to see because of Pluto. The dream that I had was a friend of mine was talking about a pharmacy. And I said, oh, you ought to go to this other pharmacy. And I got on my iPad. It was called the Pluto Pharmacy. And I couldn't quite get it to come up. And I woke up and I said, what the hell is that? The Pluto Pharmacy. Well, Pluto is transformation and it's deep volcanic change. This is going to hurt. And the reason it hurts is You hadn't done it before, or you haven't done it right, or we're too attached. But the Pluto pharmacy was going to give me medicine ideas of how to go through it. I don't have them yet, news at 10. But from what John says, my brother there, he says that the changes that we're going to see globally by the end of August are going to be magnificent, for good or ill. For good or ill. We'll see.
Just hoping that. And it's fascinating how you and he have similar thoughts on it, and how others are coming together in the same way.
Well, with him, I can only sit at the foot of the masters. And I've spoken before. John Hogue, Ray Hernandez, my brother, Professor Bill Engel at Swanee. These are scholars. These are people that are so above and beyond my ability to cognate these things. I feel the support system. I love these people. I can offer what I can to help and to hold. And I am a minister. I like to minister to myself and to others. Let it go. Detach from it. And it's a blessing and honor for me that they even listen to me. I'm here, this housewife in Montana with all the crazy makeup and the crazy costumes and the woohoo, the theater or whatever. And it's just what I do and who I am. Let's add some levity to things. Let's add some light. But I grew up with my brother, who is a scholar, who from age 9, he was teaching himself Russian in his room. He's listening to, Wagner on the. It's so above and beyond me. I was out talking to fairies in the woods. You get it? It's a big difference there. So yeah, I think that we come together, what you're saying, with different people, with different reasons, and we fill spaces in others. And that's real love. That's really what the love is, because that's really all there is in the end. All this changes and spiritualizing matter is adding love and dignity and understanding to the material world. How do you do that? I hadn't quite figured that out, what that statement really means. I get feelings about it, but I don't think I totally understand that. I think that takes some great theosophical mind to figure out, which isn't me.
Don't sell yourself so short.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just being realistic.
Zoliart brings a lot of these themes and ideas together, and the Reality Pirate Chronicles is one that has a whole lot of different subjects. And one thing that's special about it is it ties to the idea that we're all on our own journey. And you have a section called Montana Madness, which highlights your current journey.
Right. Montana Madness, that came to me because Montana, you truly do need a passport to move here. When we moved here, I went into a local grocery store. They've got everything, a little deli area. And I wanted to get a little bowl of something to eat. And I sat down and he was a cop, sat down and talked. I said, I need to ask you why we don't have stop signs in Missoula. We don't have 4-way stops. We have 4-way go. And he said, be careful. Just be careful. It's a poor state. That's up in, and we do have stop signs. That's true. We have a few. That is up in Olney, Montana, which is up in Whitefish. We go to a military reunion every year, the ranch hands reunion up in Whitefish. And that is Jeff's place. And that is a place where he has rescued, I don't know how many dogs he has, dozens. And you can go on the sled. And I just fall asleep. And we are all puffed up. I think that was a couple of years ago. It was cold. It is cold because it's just 30 minutes from Glacier Park. It is cold in February. It's ridiculous. But that's where that picture was.
And there's another one here of you with the puppy.
Yeah, I love those dogs. I love those huskies. And that bear, I think that's a brown bear. Let me get my glasses on and take a look. I didn't look like a grizz. I think that's a black bear that happens to be a cinnamon. And there's a difference in the bear. We don't, right now in Missoula, we don't have any grizzly bears. We have plenty of black bears. You can tell a difference. The grizzlies have very long claws. They're quite a bit bigger. They're aggressive. They have a hump on their neck. Their ears are a little different. They're smaller. Their face is a little different. So if you live in Montana, you know the difference about that. Hopefully we don't get too many grizzlies here, because I can walk outside and go, hey, bear, black bear. And he walks away usually.
No, that's
Usually.
different kind of neighbors than most people are used to.
Well, yeah, the first 2 years I was here, I mean, I'm always armed anyway, but I wouldn't walk outside to put the garbage out without either bear spray or my 357 Chiappa Rhino Magnum. I wouldn't walk out without it. I was scared for 2 years, and people were messing with me big time. They're saying, "Oh yeah, you live out there remote. There's cougars everywhere," and there are. You just don't see them because cats are shy. And if you come up on a cougar, all you really have to do is raise your arms and yell and scream, and they'll pretty much go away. Unless they're sick or unless they're cray cray, they may come after you. So, it's Montana. It's what it is. It's cold.
And it's just your normal life. You're sharing kind of the weirdness of Montana alongside everything else we talk about. And that's just you sharing your authentic journey. And
well, this is ours. And that picture of all the snow, that was, I think, the third winter we was here. It was, I didn't know where. I don't think I went outside for 2 months. I've never seen that much snow. And my husband, who is raised in Lake Tahoe before it got hoity-toity, he'd wake up in the morning, there was 10 feet of snow. And being a mountain man and an operator and all that, nothing bothers him, nothing physical, so he's out with a snowmobile doing this and that. And you just get used to it. Now it's nothing. We don't get that much snow anymore because things are changing. Once again, they're changing. But you do get used to it. You get attenuated to the energy field of where you live. I was raised in the deep South, totally different. My brother and I joke about it, and he's in Nashville and Chattanooga area still. But when I was growing up, you go out there and be playing tennis in 100 degrees heat, 100% humidity, and you didn't care. That's not here. I certainly found I couldn't wear 4-inch heels in the winter. Do that a couple of times, had to give up that pastime. I'm too old to wear those anyway. I'm not Melania. She can do it. Oh my God, I can't do that.
Yeah, not on ice, that's for sure.
Not on much of anything anymore, but especially not on ice. So yeah, I like to say this is Montana. This is what's weird about it. And if you look on, if you search, why does nobody live in Montana or why is it weird? You'll get a lot of those fun stories. Most are true, some aren't. Like the rest of life.
Is what you were saying about energies in locations, is that why some people feel stuck or find it hard to move from where they're at?
I think it's a big reason why. There's an art, a scientific art, it's what I call astrology, called astrocartography. And you can have your birth chart scored onto where you live and find out what lines were coming through there. What are you closest to? If you're close to a Pluto line, you can go through a lot of transformations. If you're close to Mars line, you might be stronger and more active, feel more youthful. There's an art to that. But I think that we're also drawn to the places where people are who we have soul contracts with. I had a lot of soul contracts that ended with people in Olympia, but I still love them, even though we don't communicate. Some are mad as hell at me. I'm mad at them, but who cares? These people are in your life. You never get away from it. This is our whole life, and it's who and what we are. And sometimes when the contract's in, we just don't need to communicate. We can do damage to that person or they to us by holding you into the past, see. But I think the soul contracts that we have with people, what kind of weather do you like? Everything can fit into it. But I think the energies, Linda, every place has an energy field that you're very well aware of. You know how y'all up there in Canada, you definitely talk about the energy field of your land, how beautiful that is.
Yeah.
So if you're living someplace that you don't connect with, maybe I don't know, there's that word, you're supposed to be there to do something else. I don't know.
What if you feel stuck?
I felt stuck before. I think it can hold us in place. There's that gravity and emotional thing. Sometimes being stuck, we're supposed to get just big and fat with the energy that's uncomfortable. Why? There's a lot of reasons why. You can make up any that you want, but maybe that's where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. When I say supposed to, I mean, in accordance with karma and divine will, your astrology chart, your numerology, your purpose. There's so many things. And we need some big computer program that meshes them all together. You know, we've been talking about that for years, but I don't know. I don't know. I think to feel stuck, it can be momentary. It can be a lifetime. Sometimes we come into a life and we're just going to be stuck. We're going to stay in it, and we are destined to feel those emotions. And we've all been stuck before. And does it presage a time where big change can happen? It can. Sometimes you're just stuck. It's not always a big spiritual thing. I can make a big deal out of it.
So what are some signs of hope you look for, especially in times where you feel stuck or you're in a desperate place?
What do you love? Who do you love? And who loves you? Where is compassion? And where's the silence of love? That when you are stuck, I'm stuck, but I see this, or I have this, or I give this, or I know this. A lot of times being stuck means that we are maybe doing too much prayer, meditation, being alone. We need to take that energy and explode it out in service or community in some way. Going into town, I don't know. Maybe there's too much of that. We're stuck in that where we can't get within ourselves. But I think the answer is always love and compassion and kindness. It's always the answer. How does that happen? Very individual. Very individual. And when we see other people around us that are stuck, that we love, it hurts. You want to help them. And that's love and compassion.
That gave me goosebumps, just find the love. And it made me think of this other part of the Chronicles that I was reading, and I'm going to bring it up here because it fits so perfectly in our conversation about being in a desperate place. And that's this graveyard walk, if you can see it. That was a time you were in a desperate place, if you want to talk about it for a moment.
It was quite strange. We hadn't been here it was maybe our second year here. And I was definitely stuck. I was in my second Saturn return. Married, Tom and I got married. I left Olympia, left my farm, left my animals, left this, left that, left everything familiar to come into Montana and go, what the hell? And so I was stuck for about 2 years until Spirit said to me, why don't you finish your degrees? Duh. And I found the University of Metaphysical Sciences. I found the Esoteric Interfaith Seminary. I jumped right into it. That's all I did for a couple of years. I finished things. But we had gone to Nashville for my brother and his family are Jewish. And we wanted to go to celebrate the Passover with them. And my brother's delightful and loud and hysterical. Oh my God, he's the funniest thing. And his children are just wonderful. My 2 nieces and nephew, and they were there. And so Tom and I went to this service. Then we went to that battlefield. And it was a very intense experience for me. The minute I got there, the man behind the counter I knew had been there, had died there. I didn't say anything. It's not something that you say, hey, do you remember dying here back, But one of the experiences that I remember about that graveyard walk was there was a soldier right next to a tree that I talk about in this article. And I helped him go on. I felt it, full body. Being a medium, a psychic medium, I felt that. And I'll never forget the joy and release that I felt. I've never felt it since. I've done dozens of house clearings, graveyard walks, and it's always the basements. I hate basements. It's always the darn basement. But with this, the area was just peppered with residual energies. And it's like tapes that play over and over and over again. And I didn't go there to clear a lot of it because I don't think one person can do that. A residual energy just plays. But this guy, this was a soldier and he was young. I remember his face. I remember everything about him. It was a very intense time. It had quite quite an effect on me. And from there, we went to Asheville and stayed in this very haunted hotel. And I ended up doing a walkthrough through the hotel and the building next door. And we found a lot. And I think that burnt in Asheville now with all the horror that happened with all the Helene, I think it was. But that was quite an intense experience also. Yeah, that's the graveyard walk. And to be there with my husband, who is a very decorated veteran, it was quite an honor too. And I don't know if that happened with me because he was there. I'm not sure. But I don't do much of that house clearing, graveyard walk, ghost towns anymore. It's very difficult and it takes a lot out of me. And it's like literally like being in the experience. So do you get PTSD from it? I don't know. Would I do it in the future? Yeah, possibly. But I haven't really traveled anywhere since 2020, and it's 2025. I just haven't. I've been working. So we'll see. We'll see.
Can you describe the feeling before and after you crossed over?
I was walking from, I remember on the right-hand side was that sign that told about the graveyard, and I was walking towards that building you just showed was on the right. And there was a tree on the left, and he was right there. And I saw him etherically. And I thought I heard him say, "Please, can you help me?" It was very vague. It was like it was in the wind. And I went into an altered state that I had not been in. And I said, "How?" He said, "Just help me go." And at that time, those who guard and guide you, we do nothing by ourselves. I didn't physically do that, but I was used as the physical medium, as the piece, to have this energy field come through me and help him go. Now, on the astral realm and the other realms, there is no time. So had he been there consciously for a couple hundred years, it wasn't a conscious thing. It's like they're always in the present, always in the present. But it washed through my body. And I knew that the beings that were around me had called, and it's above, so below. It's the same thing up there as it is down here. You call in help. If you need something to do, oh, they can do this. Let's call in so and so. And that's what they did. And so it's by myself that I do nothing, absolutely nothing. I know that, except mess up.
That's such a hopeful feeling. It brings hope because you don't know who's there to help you. You don't, but
No.
There's always someone.
And that's the love. There is always somebody there. And in the times of being stuck or depression, you don't know what's coming next that can lift you out of it. That to me is one of the gravitas of suicide. You don't know that if you wait 10 minutes, it's going to change. You don't know. And we get so stuck in it that we think that this is it. Every minute, this is it. And the stuckness can be good or it can be absolute evil. It can be awful. Awful. We've all had some depression, whether it's long or short. We know what that feels like, the lack of hope. But you are always surrounded with beings trying to reach you. All you have to say is, "Help me." What do you believe in? What do you believe in? Well, this person or that person. Whatever you believe is sacred unto you. It's sacred. Whether it's the major religion, whether it's Wicca, whether it's Zoroastrianism, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If you can access divinity through that, there you go. And you will get a feeling that will come here into your heart. You'll get that feeling of lift you out of it. And even if it's for a second, ask again. So try, keep going, try. We shouldn't quit. We have to allow that to come into us. And part of the feeling of being on the earth plane is to feel like we're alone, and we're not. And we seek outward for that community. You have a community of spirit also. If you knew how many beings, people, angelic beings. And I don't mean angels because they don't reach humanity. If you see things with wings, it's either a deva or it's a master, because the angelic realm, that came in the 1100s, even though it's everywhere, they don't communicate with humanity like that. So you have beings who are human on the astral realm who look like light beings. You have beings who are from other planetary systems. You have animal beings. Anything you can think of is there. In accordance with the energy field that you're in, how much work are you doing to clear your stuff? You will attract to yourself the level where you are now. That's why it's important to find some way to clear your shit. Find some way. And if you want to keep doing it through drugs or alcohol, you lose. You cannot evolve and grow from that. I don't personally believe in taking more drugs to fix the drugs you did before. Does it have an application? LSD, ayahuasca, ketamine, it does have an application, but it's used as a party thing. I want to feel differently, so I'm going to force it. But that is my prejudice for that came from, I'm a Rosicrucian above the 9th degree, and I've been doing that since 1976. Do I know it all? Heck no. But we are taught that you have to do the work. There are no shortcuts. And when we're depressed, a lot of times we want a shortcut. We want something to stop the pain, to rush it. God knows I'm impatient. Good Lord, I'm impatient. Should have heard me this morning. My husband was about to kill me. I thought, oh my God. But it's just how and what I am. I'm not going to change much of that. But I'm also not going to change it by dousing myself with drugs and alcohol. It just doesn't work. It does not work. And I'm adamant about that. Find some way to lift yourself. The fact that I could be used at that graveyard, at that battle site, I could be physically used, is to me a blessing. But that's what I came here to do, to hold energy and space for things out there, to connect with things that are here. It's my job. There are most things I can't do. I've got a lot of disabilities. Can't do it. So the fact that you find what you came here to do will pull you out of depression. If you're doing what God sent you here to do, and what your mission and your role is, and everybody's got one, it doesn't have to be huge, but you got one. If you're doing that small amount, after you're doing 51%, you'll get more help. But you got to try. You got to try up to 51%. And there's no other way. It's just not. And I didn't make that up. I wish I had, because it was really good.
That's so relevant, especially to people who might not be sure what they believe, because they just have to try. They just have to do what they're here to do. And if you don't know that, you just have to try. So there's so much hope in not having to know everything.
Exactly. I think when people say, I don't know what to believe, it's because they've been told to believe so much. And you don't have to. All you have to do is what Maitreya says, to be honest with what you're thinking and aware of it. Say that, be sincere about it, and detach from the outcome. It didn't mean to blurt out everything you're thinking, but have a continuity, have some stability, have some dignity, and have stability in your thoughts and what you say and your behavior. Then let it go. Can I do that? Not a lot, but I've gotten better at it at my old age because of the consequences of not doing it. So when we put ourselves in the state of mind and release the fear of what's going to happen if I do this, this, or this. I just heard Elon Musk say something brilliant again. He said, when you have a fear, he said, don't run away from it. Go into it, face it, eyeball to eyeball. You see, and that to me is the try. You have to try. And you have to be willing to be made fun of. You have to be willing to be on the bottom of the totem pole. You have to be willing to not be on the top. You have to be willing just to be. If you are on the top, that's fine, but it will come down sooner or later. And so there we are again.
You mentioned Maitreya, and I want to
Yeah.
share one more article from the Reality Pirate Chronicles, because we have theosophy in every volume. And this article, let's see if I can share it, is actually relevant to what we've been talking about. So let's just there we are. This article is How Do You Access the Divine?
Yeah, that's quite it's quite a precious feeling, because that's a very sacred thing. And that being on the bottom, that light being that you would call an angel, is not an angel. That is a light being. It can be a deva. You can call them angels, but what it is somebody or something or some energy field higher than you, that you are seeking to have enlightenment from. What does that mean? To help you let go of the addiction to the physical world. And that is what we're doing when we're sitting and we're praying, or we are meditating, or we're asking for help. I'll go into a certain room in the house every day and I say, Lord, hear my prayer. Over and over, I do this. Just hear my prayer. Just keep me on track. I like to say the glory be to the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, who was in the beginning, who is now, and ever shall be, world without end. How inspiring is that? World without end. It never ends. It doesn't. You don't ever end. That being on the bottom is what you're headed to. You are headed to being a master on all planes. Not now, but you're getting there. And the way that you get there is to allow yourself to be inspired by beings that are higher than you, to access the divine in a way that you can understand what makes sense to you. What makes sense? The great religions of the world, the lesser religions of the world, the spiritual paths, the lighting of fires, the drumming, it all counts. And there's love in all of it. What does that love mean? It means that we join together to access the peace of God that we understand and that we don't. And the peace that we don't is what we're looking for. Do we ever get it? I don't think so. Not unless we're a master. We finished all three, going into the fourth initiation, the fifth. We just don't. Jimmy Carter, that just died, he was a fourth degree initiate. He'll come in his next life and probably become a master, which means that he has mastered all of this earth. He has mastered his emotions. He has and that's what you're headed for. Everybody that's listening, everybody that's not, we are all headed to that. And how do we get there? By being honest, sincere, and detached. Meditation, prayer, and service. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be part of a big religion. You don't have to be part of anything except the unit inside yourself, its ability to access higher power, and then make that available on this earth in some way.
Thank you, Zoe. That is so inspiring.
Well, it inspires me. And isn't that what I'm yapping about, sitting here all the time? What inspires me? It took 10 years to get me to even do this. I'm going to hide out in Montana the rest of my life. Well, I started getting sick and I started getting depressed because I had done too much inner work and I wasn't letting it out. I had all my art in my big map case, probably 100 pieces. It was just sitting there. It was like a bunch of 30-year-old kids living in mom's basement smoking weed. It wasn't doing anything purposeful. It was depressed. So I had to get it out. So we started the website. We got it out. Same thing with the music. Same thing with the writing. Who knows why or what? I don't know. But I know that for me, what I have to do is exactly what I'm doing. I don't know who's listening. I don't look at social media. I don't look at any of it. All I know is that This is what I have to do, and why I have to do it is to keep myself from being a depressed fool eating chocolate in the closet, which I've done.
Haven't we all?
I'm on this keto thing. Tom and I are on this keto thing, and we're losing weight. We're healthier. We're happier. Whatever. But food.
One of the great pleasures.
Yeah, at least I can still drink coffee. I love coffee. So eat right, exercise, die anyway.
That's correct. That's life.
It's the laughing and it's the joy and the levity that's very important to me. I know that I'm absolutely ridiculous. I said I wear these crazy outfits. I sit here, I got 5 pounds of makeup on, and you'll see the Zoliart studio. Someday I'll walk you around. I'll tell people the different areas in it, what it means and why it's there. And it's just my creativity. And I inspire and aspire to tell other people, find out what makes you love. What makes you love? That has a double entendre. What makes you love? What do you love? And what is loving in your life? It's emotion and it's feeling. And it's using this gravitational field that dragged us all down. When kids jump on a trampoline, you're excited, you jump up and down. You're trying to leave the gravitational field of Earth. That's why rebounding is to me, it's a great exercise. I like that. You can't be depressed and do that. What we're doing by spiritualizing matter is lifting ourselves off of this gravitational field. And we're spiritualizing matter by saying there's never been as much crap on the earth as there is now. We're getting ready to see a lessening in the stuff on this planet. We will go through some times where there will be a lot less. Talk about that later. But I'm talking about levity. I think comedy is important. I think comedy and ridiculousness is important. I certainly grew up. We were all idiots. Oh my God. My father was hysterically funny. He was like Walter Mitty. More on that later. It's important.
Be love and have fun.
Yes, when we can. There's a lot of times I can't do that. I get way too serious. But so what we all do. It's this crazy balancing act. It's like the circus. I love the idea of circus. And, it's the idea you have the 3 rings. It's all this color and movement and light and ability and popcorn and stuff. And then you go out and you got to go to work. But that's life.
That's life.
We just be a people.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just be. And as I've gotten older, I think I'm more comfortable just being a people, because I certainly can't go back to who I was or what I was. And you can't go back. I wouldn't want to. So I got to see what's out there. I got to see what's going on.
And that's what we're doing here. And we look forward to people reaching out via the website to let you know if they have any questions and to continue the conversation.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun to do. I choose not to talk to anybody on the phone. It all has to be written. I think better like that anyway. But I think that people inside of themselves, just like me, you already know where you're supposed to be going and what you're supposed to be doing. The point is for us just to do it. Oh my God, if I do it. So hopefully we are.
Yeah, that'll be our next conversation. We can have all about how to do.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be nice?
Thank you, Zoli.
Thank you, Linda.
It's been a pleasure as always.
Yes, it has. Thank you so very much.
Take care, everyone.